Morning, Acharaya.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, so we are starting the third Valli, the Prathama Adhyaya, third Valli, the first chapter, the third section. So let us chant that, the first mantra. Ritam pibantau sukritasya loke.
Ritam pibantau sukritasya loke.
Guham pravishtau parame parardhe.
Guham pravishtam parame.
Chaya tapau brahmavido vadanti.
Chayam brahmavido vadanti.
Panchagnyo ye chatrinachiketaha. Okay, so I'm just muting all of y'all. All right. So Brahmavidaha. So Brahmavidaha is in the second line of the mantra. Brahmavidaha, the people who know Brahman, vadanti. So you start this Anvaya with that. Brahmavidaha vadanti. The knowers of Brahman say. What do they say? Chaya tapau. Chaya and tapaha. That is shade and light. So these are being likened to the Jivatma and Paramatma. Chaya, the shadow, is the Jivatma. And tapau, the sunlight, is Paramatma. So Chaya, tapau, pravishtau. Pravishtaha is entered. So Jivatma and Paramatma, they have entered. What have they entered? Guham. So Guham, as you know, Guha means a cave. And the cave is supposed to be the golakam of the mind or the intellect. So here Guham has to be taken as the residence of the intellect. So for all practical purposes, intellect itself. And therefore Brahmavidaha vadanti. The knowers of Brahman say that Jivatma and Paramatma have entered the intellect. And where is they? Parame parardhe. Within the supreme residence of Paramatma, Parame parardhe, Pibantau. They are experiencing. Pibantau is again dual case. So you have to connect it to Chaya Tapau. Jivatma and Paramatma are experiencing. Pibantau literally means to drink, but here they're experiencing what? Ritam Sukritasya. So they are experiencing the results of their own actions, where Loke. So Loka normally means the world, but here Loke has to be taken as in this body, in the Jiva's body. So Jivatma and Paramatma are experiencing the results of their own action in the Jiva's body. And who other people also say. So first Brahmavidaha say, and other people also say. Who are they? Ye Panchagnayaha. Those people who have done the ritual involving the 5 Agnis, the 5 fires, they say that. And also Cha Trinachiketaha. People who have done this same ritual, and remember now it is called the Nachiketa ritual. So same ritual called the Nachiketa ritual has been Trinachiketa, has been done thrice by these people. So in short, we are saying that in plain English, the wise people who are the knowers of Brahman, they say that Jivatma and Paramatma, which are compared to the shade and sunlight, have entered the intellect within the supreme residence of Paramatma and are experiencing the results of their own actions in this body of the Jivatma. And this is being said by whom? Those who invoke the Panchagni, the five fires, and also those who have done Trinachiketa. This same ritual they have done thrice. Okay. So very profound sentence. So what is Yama saying? Yamaraj is saying that there are various people who say the same thing. One is the Brahmavida, the spiritual people, the Jnanis. And one is the Panchagniyaha and the Trinachiketaha. Both are ritualistic people. So all the Vedikas are basically into two groups. Those who follow Purva Veda and those who follow Vedanta. So here in these two statements, Brahmavid and Panchagniyaha and Trinachiketaha, he has covered both. So both followers of Purva Veda as well as Vedanta, they talk about the Jivatma, right? Why? Because the Jivatma is the traveler. What is the difference between the two? In Veda Purva, the goal is Anatma, right? So a farmer, when he wants rain, he does a ritual. Grahastha, when he wants a child, he does a ritual. A Grahastha, when he wants more money, a trader, a commercial trader, when he wants more money, he does a ritual. Right? So these rituals by the people in the Veda Purva, in the Karma Kanda, they have a very specific goal, which we call prayas, what is pleasant. They are not looking for moksha. So everybody in Karma Kanda has got a materialistic goal, that is said. And that is why he says they talk about it also. Talk about what? The Jivat. And Vedanta also, they talk about Shreyas. Shreyas is moksha. And here it is not a materialistic goal, it is Paramatma as the goal. And therefore, who is this Paramatma? This Paramatma is the all-pervading consciousness. And we saw that this all-pervading consciousness, because of the fact that it is eternal, has no beginning, no middle, no end, and it is all-pervading. Therefore, the existence of the Atma, Paramatma, the consciousness, does not depend upon any medium, right? Medium here meaning Anatma. So consciousness, the Atma or the Paramatma or Brahman, does not depend upon any medium for its existence. In other words, Atma does not depend upon Anatma for existence. But for the expression or the manifestation, it requires a medium. So that we should be very clear about that. Atma is not dependent upon Anatma for its existence, but for the manifestation of that consciousness principle, of that existence principle, for its expression, a medium is required. And that medium is what? The mind, the Sukshma Shariram, which is enclosed in the Sthula Shariram. Only when you have a Sukshma Shariram, the mind, in other words, enclosed in a gross body, in a Sthula Shariram, can this Atma express itself. And therefore, we talk about the consciousness principle being expressed. Right? If the mind is not there, can the Atma express itself? Yes. In the wall, for example, is Atma available? Yes. But only as the existence principle. It is not that the consciousness aspect of Atma is not available in the wall, but a suitable reflecting medium is not there. And therefore, consciousness principle is not manifest in the wall, while the existence principle is very much manifest in the wall. Now, when it comes to a living being, the Jivatma, for example, and Jivatma doesn't necessarily mean human being. It can mean any being which has a subtle body, which has got Sukshma Shriram, is called a Jivatma. In that Jivatma, this Atma expresses itself as what? Pratibimba Chaitanyam, also called Chidabhasa Chaitanyam, also called what in Tattva Bodha? What was the name in Tattva for this? Guys, come on.
Pragya.
I want the name in relation to the consciousness principle.
Not Pragnya or Pragya.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But you look at we call it, I said Chidabhasa Chaitanyam. Translate that literally.
Reflected consciousness.
Reflected
Oh,
consciousness.
Reflected consciousness.
Sorry.
You should not forget basic principles. Whenever I say Atma, it is OC. Whenever we say Chidabhasa Chaitanyam or we say Pratibimba Chaitanyam, we are talking about RC. Rather than use all these big words, whenever these words are used, just recall OC, RC, RM. These three basic fundamentals of Tattva one must recall. Okay. So this Atma is available in the Jivatma as RC because the RM is there. The mind is there. The Sukshma Shariram is there. And therefore the consciousness principle is also available as the RC. And of course, the existence principle is available as the bodies themselves, as the gross body and subtle body. And now, this RC, the reflection, always borrows some properties of the reflecting medium. Can we say it borrows properties of the original consciousness? Can we say RC borrows from two places, from the RM and from the OC? All banana questions.
It does.
Beg your pardon?
It does.
Explain.
Because it's reflecting the consciousness. The consciousness.
What is the property it is borrowing? Anybody?
Existence, manifestation.
Sat and Chit both.
Okay, it's a trick
Isn't
question.
RC is the same as the OC, actually. I mean, it is OC with a borrowed property of the...
OC is what? Nirgunam. Nirguna Brahman. Nirgunam means what? No attributes, no properties. And how can the RC borrow anything from OC? It cannot, because OC has no properties. There is nothing that RC can borrow from OC because there are no properties, no attributes for that OC, or that Brahman is Nirguna Brahman. And therefore, this reflection borrows properties only from the reflecting medium. For example, what? The location of the reflecting medium determines the location of the RC. If the RM is located in Trivandrum, the RC is located in Trivandrum. If the RM is located in Delhi, the RC is located in Delhi. Right? Remember that in the example of the sun and the mirror, assuming that the sun is not traveling, by and large, we are saying sun is not traveling, but the reflection moves with the mirror. If you take the mirror from Delhi to Bombay, the reflection moves. It's the same thing. The location of the reflecting medium determines the location of the RC. Similarly, other things. For example, if the mirror is dull, then reflection is dull. If the Sukshma Shariram is not very bright, then certain features of that Sukshma, the dullness, etc., that gets borrowed from the reflecting medium. If the reflecting medium comes into existence at a particular point of time, say date of birth, then the reflected consciousness has a date of birth. If the reflecting medium travels, then the RC travels. Therefore, Jivatma is the RC, reflection of the Paramatma OC in the reflecting medium, which is the mind, the Sukshma Shariram. So when that RC travels, we say Jivatma travels. When the RC becomes a Karta, we say Jivatma is Karta. When RC experiences becomes a Bhokta, we say Jivatma is Bhokta. So the therefore definition of Jivatma is Paramatma Pratibimba Chaitanyam, the reflection of the original consciousness. And that Pratibimba means reflection, Bimba is the original. So Paramatma Pratibimba or Bimba Pratibimba Chaitanya, whichever way you want to look at it. Paramatma is OC, Atma is OC, Brahman is OC, Jivatma is RC. And therefore, Yamaraj is saying here, within this body-mind complex, Loke, he uses the word Loke, within that body-mind complex, Jivatma and Paramatma are present. Chaya, Tapau, Pravishthau, both are present. The RC and the OC, both are present. Now, it is easy to understand why Jivatma is present. Why? Because the RC, the Jivatma, is available only where the RM is. The RM is the body, and therefore RC can be available only in the body. Why is Paramatma also there in the body? Why do we say OC is in the body? So this concept I introduced a few classes earlier. Until now, we used to talk about Jivatmas, RC and RM. But I said we have to refine that concept and say that Jivatma is three things: RM, RC and OC. So here that concept is being talked about. When he says Chaya Tapau Pravishthau, he says that OC also exists there. OC also entered. Now the entry of OC has to be understood carefully. Can the OC enter the body? Can Atma enter the body?
No, cannot
It is
enter it.
Atma is all pervading.
The Atma is all pervading. It is everywhere there. And therefore, when you say Chaya Tapau Pravishthau, you have to understand that the RC entered, meaning the RC is the OC reflected in the body. And without the OC being there, the RC is not there at all. And RC being all pervading has to be necessarily present in the body. All pervading means present everywhere. Okay. Therefore, from now on, wherever we say Jivatma, we have to think of three things: the reflecting medium, the body, the RC, the Jivatma, and the OC, the Paramatma. The Jivatma consists of three things: the body, the original consciousness, the Paramatma, and the reflected consciousness, the RC. So RC is equal to OC plus RM. That is the equation to remember. RC Jivatma is equal to OC Paramatma plus RM the body. So far, so good. And this Jivatma can have.
Acharya, can't hear you too well suddenly.
Okay.
I think the mic, you kind of took it back.
All right.
Thank you.
So is it better now?
Much better. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So this Jivatma can have two goals. The one is to move from Anatma to Anatma, one body to another body. That is, he lives, he dies, he gets another body and comes back. So Anatma to Anatma is one direction of travel. Anatma to Paramatma is one direction of travel. Now remember that Paramatma is present wherever Jivatma is there. We just discussed. OC is there, that is why RC is there. And to put it differently, wherever RC is there, OC is there. So wherever Jivatma is there, Paramatma is present. Therefore, if you want to be left with Paramatma alone, what must you remove?
RM.
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 The RM you remove. RM you remove, RC disappears, only Paramatma is left. Okay, that's what he means by Guham Pravishtham. They have both entered the mind. They have both entered the intellect. So Guham can be taken as the mind or the Antakaranam also. Normally Guha, as I said, means a cave, but in the context of Vedanta, it means the residence of the mind, the golakam for the mind. So you can take it as the mind itself. And we can say mind is also called a cave because a cave is dark and the Ajnani's mind is full of ignorance. Since when? From long ago, Anadikala, from very existence, beginning of existence itself. And then he says, Ritum Sukritasya. So Ritum here, Shankaracharya says very carefully, means karma phalam, punya papam. Okay. And Sukritasya has to be understood very carefully. Normally, when we have the prefix su to anything, what is it supposed to indicate?
Goodness. Good.
Right? Su is goodness and ku is badness. So here, the Sukritasya is not indicative of that. The su here is short for swayam. So swayam kritaha. Krita is actions. So Sukritasya means your own actions. Ritam, the karma phalam. The karma phalam, Sukritasya, of your own actions, this Jivatma experiences. Now, very picturesquely is also saying Paramatma experiences. Because Jivatma experiences and the Paramatma thinks that he is the Jivatma, he is identified, he has got the Abhimanam. Therefore, why? Because I am actually the Paramatma. There is no such thing as Jivatma. It is only because I think I am the Jivatma that the actions of the body are owned up by me. Okay. So if somebody does a wrong action, then it will affect me. And that is why he says, Sukrutasya karma, your own actions. The phalam, Sukrutasya ratam means the karma phalam of your own karma. Very clearly pointing out that the Jivatma experiences only the phalam of your own karma, of its own karma. You can never experience the karma of other people. There's a very common saying in India that somebody else's karma will touch you. It doesn't. Only the karma phalam which you have undertaken, that is your own karma, can touch you. And what happens if somebody else does a wrong action and it affects me? It has to be understood as my own prarabdha karma, that particular pain or embarrassment caused by somebody else's wrong actions, they are due to me as my karma phalam. The circumstances which brought about this problem is my own karma. Only the delivery of the karma phalam has been undertaken by the person who has actually hurt me. That could be your own family members, your friends, or somebody not known to you at all. So we say therefore that universe is only a channel for me to experience my own karma. You to understand that as the universe can never hurt anybody. It is only the karma which hurts. And therefore Krishna says, Nimitta Matra Bhava. Nimittam is the delivery agent. The universe is only Nimittam. It is only the cause. Pibanto here, of course, doesn't mean drink, it means experience. And karma phalam is of three types. Anishtham, Ishtham, Mishram cha. Where did we see that? Anishtham, Ishtham, Mishram cha. Nobody remembers.
Chapter 18.
It's one of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so those who have been chanting regularly will remember that. So this Anishtham, Ishtham, Mishram cha represents the three types of karma phalam. Ishtham is punya phalam, source of joy. Anishtham is papa phalam, source of sorrow. Mishram is mixture, source of joy mixed with sorrow. Now remember again that even though RC and OC are simultaneously present in the body, that is to say, in the words of this section, even though Jivatma and Paramatma are simultaneously present in the loke, in this body, we should remember that Paramatma is a dormant partner. It doesn't do any action. It is there, therefore the reflection is there. The Jivatma is there because Paramatma is there. Support of Paramatma is there. The OC is there, and therefore the RC is there. So whenever we say that they are experiencing the pain. Both of them are experiencing the pain or experiencing the pleasures. We remember that the Jivatma, backed up by the Paramatma, experiences pain and pleasure. Okay, so hence Chaya Tapau Vadanti. This particular Chaya Tapo, we can look at it to see the differences between the Jivatma and Paramatma. So here, as I said earlier, Chaya means the shadow, which means Jivatma, and Paramatma is sunlight, which is the sun. So they have many features. So for number one, Paramatma is Ekam, only one. Jivatma is multiple. There are many Jivatmas, there is only one Atma. Paramatma is all-pervading, Sarvagatam. Jivatma is Parichinnaha, restricted, limited to one physical body. Paramatma cannot travel because it is all-pervading. Jivatma is subject to travel because it is a RC. When the RM travels, Jivatma travels. Paramatma is Swatantraha, independent of the body-mind complex, independent of the reflecting medium. Jivatma is Paratantraha, dependent upon the body-mind complex, dependent upon the reflecting medium. Jivatma borrows attributes from reflecting medium, not from Paramatma. Jivatma borrows attributes from reflecting medium. RC borrows attributes from RM, while the OC, the Paramatma, is free from attributes, has no attributes. That is why it's called Nirguna Brahman. And the last one is Jivatma is a samsari. Atma, Paramatma is free of samsara. And then Brahmavidaha Panchagnyaha Cha Trinachiketaha. These are three people who talk about all this. So Panchagnya is a householder, right? It's a grahastha. And it is said in Shastra that there are 5 different types of fires to perform different type of rituals. That is why it's called Panchagni, 5 fires. And each fire is known by a different name. So you have something called Gharapatya, you have something called Avaniya, you have something called Lakshina, you have something called Sabhya, and something called Avasatya. These are all the names of the fires. Not important for our study, but they are the names of the fires. And therefore, the Grahastha who uses all the fires for performing rituals is called Panchagni. And Trinachiketa is a specific form of a Grahastha who has done the rituals thrice. And it's called Trinachiketa. So thus he says, these Grahasthas, they all talk about the traveling Jivatma. And with this verse, basically what has been done is Paramatma and Jivatma has been introduced. And the next mantra talks about the destinations, the different paths which the Paramatma and the Jivatma can take. Or the Jivatma can take, sorry, not Paramatma. Jivatma can take 2 paths. So which are the 2 paths that Jivatma can take? It's talked about in the next mantra. So please unmute yourself and we can chant.
Acharya, no question.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So there was this little portion which you mentioned in the beginning where you were speaking about Jivatma and Paramatma and the all-pervasiveness of Paramatma. And there was something that you mentioned, which is that the wall has the existence aspect, but not the consciousness aspect. And when we talk about Brahma, when we talk about Paramatma, it cannot be independent of any of the 3, Satchit, Anand. So
absolutely. I said wall has existence but does not manifest consciousness. It cannot not have consciousness.
okay.
Sat, Chit and Ananda, all 3 are present.
Yes.
Wherever, in anything.
Right.
Okay, any Brahman, the moment you say Brahman, which is the very material from which everything is made, you're talking about Satchitananda. The manifestation depends upon the subtle body. And the world doesn't have subtle body, so it cannot manifest neither consciousness nor Ananda.
Okay. Okay. But I mean, all 3 are, I mean, it cannot be that
It
Yeah.
cannot be that.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Acharya.
So you have to remember that Drik Drishya Viveka.
Yes.
Adhyatrayam Brahma Rupam.
Yeah.
First,
Also, sorry, Acharya, another question, not that it is, you did say it is not relevant to anybody, but still it's kind of relevant to the world that these Pancha Agnis are not really being performed by any of the householders any longer.
not anymore, but there are, I suppose, a few who are, very, very, what do you call it?
Because it's not just meant for,
Traditional.
it's not meant for just them. It's not only for their individual selves, but also for Srishti in general.
Yes, Panchagni basically any ritual is meant for the devatas, the nourishment to devatas.
Right.
So everything is for the harmony of the universe. Nobody does it anymore. Okay, it doesn't mean that in the old days there was only harmony. I'm sure there was as much battle as there is today.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we go ahead, look at the second mantra, which we will chant. Yaha seturi jananam
Yah seturi jananam
aksharam brahma yatparam
Aksharam
Brahma yat param
abhayam titirshatam param
Abhayam
Abhayam param
nachiketagam shakemahi.
Nachiketagam
Okay, so shakemahi means we can resort to what? Nachiketam. The last two words you're looking at, Nachiketam. So as you know, that particular, that character over there is a Vedic Anuswara, is a Vedic dot. So when pronouncing the mantra, we can say Nachiketagum. We can also say Nachiketam. Nothing is wrong. So Shakemahi Nachiketam. I can resort to the Nachiketa fire. Yaha Setuhu. So that has to be connected to the first. Yaha Setuhu, which is the Setu, which is the bridge. And Nachiketa fire is the bridge for what we have discussed earlier. What does doing the Nachiketa Homam get you? What is the karma phalam of Nachiketa Homam?
Swargaloka.
Swargaloka, right? So he's saying Shakemahi Nachiketam Yaha Setuhu. That Nachiketa fire is the bridge to reach heaven. And here that Seturi Jananam has to be broken into Setuhu plus Ijananam. So Ijananam is Ij. Ij is the one who does rituals. So Ijananam for the people who are doing rituals for the Karma Kandis. So this statement is applicable to the Karma Kandis. For the Karma Kandis, that is Ijananam Shakemahi Nachiketam Hasetuhu. For the Karma Kandis, the people who are focused on Karma Kanda, on the Purva Veda, the Nachiketam fire, that ritual is the means to reach heaven, is the bridge to reach Swarga. Otherwise, Param Aksharam for the others. Param Aksharam. I can resort to the Supreme Brahman, and Abhayam Brahma is the adjective. That Abhayam Brahma is Param Aksharam, the supreme, imperishable, fearless Brahma. We can resort to that. For whom? For Titirshatam Param. So Param is the other shore. The other shore of what? Of the ocean of samsara, which is basically moksha. Titirsatam is a word which means one who wants to cross. So Titirsatam Param is the one who wants to cross the ocean of samsara and reach the other shore. For him, Yat Abhayam Brahma Paramam Aksharam. That Brahman, which is fearless and supreme and imperishable, that Brahman is the means, is the tool. So in simple English, the ritualists whose objective is to reach Swarga can use the Nachiketa fire as the means, while those who want to cross the shores of the ocean of samsara and reach the other shore, which means those who are desirous of moksha, they have to resort to imperishable, fearless Brahma. Okay, they have to resort to Jnana Yoga only. Okay, so there are two paths. As I said in the closing of the last verse, there are two paths for the Jivatma. And one is the Karma Marga, Purva Veda, which includes Karma and Upasana. This is an outside path. It is external to me. It's external path. And it always goes to prayas, an Anatma destination. And then there is Shreyas, the Jnana Marga, the internal journey taking me to Paramatma. So there are two paths for the Jivatma. One goes from Anatma to Anatma. This is Karma Marga and Upasana. The other goes from Anatma to Atma. This is Shreya Marga, Jnana Yoga. And Ijana is the Yajamana, the ritualist, who does yagas, yajnas, and he chooses to follow the Karma Marga because it is attractive. And for him, it is said, this Karma Marga is the bridge. And here the Karma Marga is what? The Nachiketa fire. That is available for all Karma Margis. And it provides you with the greatest of sense pleasures, because Swarga represents what? Dharma, Artha, Kama. And Brahmaloka has two aspects. One is you can go to Brahmaloka and enjoy all the sense pleasures in the greatest quality. So that is also one form. That is why it is said that karma takes you to Swarga, but karma plus upasana, that takes you to Brahmaloka. Having reached Brahmaloka, you can choose to just enjoy yourself and exhaust your karma, or you can choose to, as we have seen in Bhagavad Gita, to go and get the teaching from Lord Brahmaji and get moksha. So here we're talking about the Karma Marga people. So you can go up to Swarga or Brahmaloka. So here it represents Dharmartha Kama. You can do that. Swarga represents Dharmartha Kama. You can go and enjoy yourself, get materialistic goals. And he says, Shakemahi Nachiketam. This Nachiketa fire you can choose if you want to follow this path. What is the problem here? We saw Antavattu Phalam Tesha. In Bhagavad Gita we saw that. We also saw Shine Punye Martilokam Mishanti. Antavattu Phalam Tesha. All those karma phalam, they have an ending. They come to an end. They are all temporary. And after that, Shine Punye Martilokam Mishanti. Once the punyam has been exhausted, you are back here to this world to generate more karma or to do jnana, whichever is your prarabdha. And one word he uses is very interesting. Abhayam Brahma. Abhayam means the other shore of samsara is fearless, without fear. We have to interpret it as without any insecurity, because Brahma itself, moksha itself, is the highest source of security. And what is the marga? What is the path? Aksharam Param Brahma. So here you have to carefully supply Aksharam Param Brahma Jnanam. There is no way of achieving Aksharam Brahma without the knowledge. And therefore, Aksharam Param Brahma Jnanam is the second path. And the Jivatma can choose one of these two paths, either the path of Shreyas or the path of Prayas. Generally, who wins? Brahman rarely wins. So he says in Gita, Krishna says, Manushyanam Sastreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye. Even among those few people who choose the path of Jnanam, very few actually succeed. And Yamraj says, Shakemahi. We can follow either of these paths, either Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, depending upon whether you are focused on material benefits or whether you are focused on moksha. Depending upon that, you can do what you want. Okay. Now in the third mantra onwards, a very famous example is presented. So let us look at that. We will chant verse number 3, mantra number 3. Atmanagam rathinam vidhi
Atmanagam
आत्मानगं रथिनं विद्धि
Shariragam Rathamev tu.
शरीरगं रथमेव तु
Buddhim tu Sarathim Vidhi.
बुद्धिं तु सारथिं विद्धि
Manah Pragraham Evacha.
Mana
मनः प्रग्रहामेव च
Okay. You should all do some chanting of this on your own because we are not holding a chanting class. And without the chanting, let me tell you, unless these words are driven into your brain, this whatever we are discussing will not last long. It will be coming and going. Agama apayanaha. So it's important to chant. I can't overemphasize the necessity of regular chanting. Whenever we are doing one Upanishad, you should ensure that during the course of the week, you chant the full Upanishad. So in a space of say 10, 12 weeks, when we cover one Upanishad, or maybe slightly more than that, you would have chanted at least so many times, so the words would be there in your mind. Okay. So Vidhi. Vidhi means you should know. You should know what? Atmanam Rathinam. So your Atmanam is not Satchidatma. Your Atmanam is Jivatma. So know that the Jivatma, Rathinam. So Rathinam is the person who is carried by the chariot. In other words, Ratha is a chariot. Rathinam is the master of the chariot. So know that Jivatma is the passenger, the one who owns the chariot. With the Atmanam Rathinam. Yamraj is telling whom? Nachiketas. You should know that the Jivatma is the master of the chariot. And what is the chariot? Shariram Rathameva. The physical body is the chariot. So know that the Jivatma is the master of the chariot, which is the physical body. And Vidhi, you should know what? Buddhim to Sarathim. Buddhi is the Sarathi, the charioteer. You should know that Buddhi is the driver. And Manaha Pragraham Eva. Pragraham are the reins. You should know that the mind is the reins. Okay, so this is the first part of the imagery. In short, it means that know that Jivatma is the master of the chariot, which is the physical body, and know that the intellect is the charioteer and the mind is the reins. This is the comparison. So this, I'll first give you a brief overview because so that the mantras are understood better. Over the next 7 mantras, 3 to 9, is a very famous example called Ratha Kalpana, the chariot example. Kalpana is actually imagery. So Ratha is the chariot imagery. And through this very famous example, Yamaraj is presenting the spiritual journey. Okay. And there are many comparisons. So one we have seen. The first comparison is the physical body is compared to the chariot, which is the vehicle for the journey. Because that is what takes us from place to place and enables us to do all our sadhana. So it is a physical vehicle for the journey. And the chariot is drawn by what? Horses. And here, as we will see in the next verses, the horses are supposed to be the sense organs, the indriyas. And there are 5 horses. So 5 sense organs and therefore 5 horses. These indriyas, these panchindriyas, they take the body, they take the chariot, the ratham, from place to place. Now these sense organs, each one has its own path, right? Each one has a particular, field of action. And therefore it needs central control, because every horse, if it is allowed to run exactly as it wants, the chariot goes nowhere, or it might even get derailed. And therefore there is need for a central control. And therefore the mind, which controls the sense organs, is compared to the reins, which control the horses. So you have chariot drawn by 5 sense organs. The chariot is the body. In the chariot is sitting the master, the Jivatma. that chariot, the body is being steered, is being drawn by the five sense organs, which are the horses. And there is the mind, which is the reins to control the sense organs. And therefore, wherever the reins are there, a driver is required. The charioteer is required, right? The Sarathi is required. And this Sarathi, this charioteer is the mind. The intellect is required to control the sense organs. And therefore, the Sarathi, the charioteer, is compared to the mind to the intellect. Therefore, intellect, with the help of the mind, controls the sense organs. Mind is the charioteer. That charioteer, that mind, requires the intellect. Thus, intellect, with the help of the mind, controls sense organs. And behind the intellect sits the master, the Jivatma, the Pratibimba Chaitanyam, the reflected consciousness. This is the comparison as far as the chariot is concerned. Chariot, sense organs, the reins, the mind, and the Jiva. Okay, so mind here has to be understood as intellect operating through Sukshma Shariram, which is the mind. Why? Because the intellect chooses which direction to go. The intellect chooses how much to tighten the reins, how much to loosen it, which horse requires to be reined in, such stuff. And therefore, intellect is the chariot. And behind all that is the Yajamana, the RC, the Jivatma, the master of the chariot who is being taken along on his journey. Then there are two comparisons outside the body. What are they? The horses always move along a path. Similarly, sense organs have their own fields of movement, fields of operation. What are they? Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Right? Shabda is sound. Sound is the lane for the ears. Touch is the lane for the skin. Form is the lane for the eyes. Taste is the lane for the tongue. And smell is the lane for the ears. So each has their own lane, their own paths. This is the comparison which is not outside, not inside the body, outside the body. And the last one is the destination. The destination is the seventh one. There are two destinations. Samsara is one and moksha is one. So, of course, having given these comparisons, we should note that all the factors, chariot, horses, mind, buddhi, all this should be in a fit condition, right? They should be in a condition of fitness, because to undertake a journey, before we go on a long journey, we check everything in the car, right? We take it to the mechanic, we fill up the petrol, we check the tires, check the engine so that we don't get into any problems. Similarly, in this journey, we must regularly check all the factors involved. And the factors are chariot, horses, mind, buddhi, etc. And therefore, the first sadhana is what? Never neglect the health of the body. Health is absolutely necessary for the spiritual journey. And therefore, arogyam. Arogyam is good health. So we have the Shanti mantra, which is that Stirangai Tushtuvagam Sastunobi, let my body and mind be in good health for my spiritual journey. So first sadhana is good health. Always take care of the health of the body. The second sadhana is sense organs must be in my control. I must be always the master of the sense organs, never the slave. And therefore, any sensory indulgence I need to avoid. Why? Because overindulgence means slavery. And therefore, we are pointing to a very important spiritual discipline, Dhamma. We have already seen that Tattva-bodha. Third sadhana, the mind must be healthy. Psychological health is important. Your FIR should be low. Your mind should be undisturbed, right? You can yourself think, if you ever had a major fight in the house and you are emotionally disturbed, you can't even watch your favorite TV show because your mind is not available. then what to talk of Vedanta class? And therefore, Krishna says in the Gita, develop Daivi Sampattihi, avoid Asuri Sampattihi. That is emotional health, which we saw in Tattva Bodha as Shama. So we have health of the body, we have Dhamma, we have Shama, right? So Jivatma is the master, the body is the chariot, the intellect is the Sarathi, the charioteer, the driver, the mind is the reins. The reins are the connection between the sense organs and the driver. And what determines? The driver determines. The intellect determines all the activities of the jiva. This is what is implied. That the intellect determines all activities of jiva. Now, Shankaracharya in his commentary very carefully notes. Prayena, he writes. Prayena doesn't determine all activity. It determines mostly. Major activities it determines. Why does Shankara say that? Why does Shankara feel the need to tell us that intellect determines only most of the activities?
Some activities are compulsory, like breathing or eating, like that.
Yeah, they are mechanical.
Tama.
They don't require the intervention of your intellect. You don't necessarily have to take a sankalpa that I am going to breathe, or my blood is going to be circulated, the heart should pump. All that are automatic activities connected to the body itself. They don't require the intervention of the intellect. So Shankara says prayena mostly. Okay. Now we can either stop here or we can do the next mantra. I'll leave it to you. If you have any questions, we'll take it here. Otherwise, we'll do one more mantra.
Acharya,
Beg your pardon?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
When we say that the master of the chariot is the RC,
Yes.
but it is the intellect who takes most of the decision in this spiritual journey. So what's the role of the master in there? Like he just sits and waits where the intellect takes him, or he kind of tells the charioteer where does he wants to go? Or in this example, how can we interpret the relationship between the master and the charioteer?
The Jivatma has different, what you can call it, parts in subtle body. There are 17 parts you saw in Kathopanishad. Each part has a particular function. And the intellect's function is to decide. So when this illustrates the need to understand very carefully what Shastra is saying. When you say, for example, I have decided to go to India, what do you mean? What does that I represent?
The Vatma. The
Is it?
The body mind sense complex.
Yes, but I have decided, I said. The decision was taken by whom? By the which kosha?
The Annamaya.
No, not Annamaya kosha at all.
Vijnanamaya.
By the Vijnanamaya kosha, which is the intellect. That is what he's saying. The intellect takes a decision. Any part, any of these kosha, when you get emotional, you say, I am angry. But you have to learn to develop a segregation and say, Manomaya kosha is angry. So that's why that point is trying to be made here, that Jivatma is actually a mythical entity. There is no Jivatma. It is only a reflection in all these various koshas. And therefore, each kosha is being talked about separately. And therefore, he says Buddhi. Buddhi means Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha takes a decision. Because of the decisions taken by the Anatma, the Jivatma feels that he is going somewhere. But Jivatma doesn't realize that he is only the reflection.
Om Acharya. So does that mean that the intellect essentially is reflective knowledge depending on whatever is present in the intellect? Because otherwise intellect is inert.
No, intellect is part of the Suksha Shariram, yes. But it is inert as far as nature is concerned. But reflected consciousness is there, no? That is what makes it live.
So it is finite. The knowledge which is contained in the intellect from the past or whatever is there, that will only be helping in taking the decisions. It will
Yes,
be
it is
limited.
very finite, very much finite. You should not confuse the intellect to be infinite. Intellect is part of your kosha. Kosha is anatma. Anatma is finite.
Actually, also, Acharya, this has been very well explained by you in the Bhagavad Gita, but I don't think anyone has come there as yet, which is the 18th chapter, which is where all of these are individually explained. Dhriti, Buddhi, Mana.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait for a long time. All these guys are in BG5 only, most of them. So that's why, I mean, my initial take was that only those who have done the Gita should come to Vedanta. But anyway, it's okay. All right. So with this, if there are no more questions, we'll stop. And any questions, Spandana?
Om Acharya.
Yeah.
Today's class we used Guha as mind, and earlier we said the heart cave. Do they mean the same?
So Guha, when they say Hridaya Guha, the cave of the heart. Okay. So that Guha, the word itself refers to the heart, and actually it refers to space inside the heart, because there's another Upanishad which says that the Atma is the size of a thumb. Should not take it very literally, and it resides in the Guha, the heart. So Guha literally means heart, but we have to understand this as the Golakam for the mind. Okay, we also say Atma resides in Guha. Okay, that is also one interpretation. But remember that whenever you say that Atma resides in the heart, you cannot take it literally as Atma resides in the heart. Why?
Atma can reside.
It resides everywhere.
Anything which resides in a room is smaller than the room or bigger than the room?
Small.
Is smaller. Therefore, if you take the literal meaning of Atma resides in the heart, you're going to say that Atma is smaller than the heart. So this residing, you'll find the same words being used, residing, found in, everywhere. It has to be taken as is manifested in the heart. Why? Because heart is the golakam for the mind, and mind is the manifesting medium for consciousness. Vijnanamaya kosha is the manifesting medium for consciousness.
Can we take it to mean it is the most evident in this place?
It is, you can actually, if you are wanting to experience your mind, you can experience that only in yourself. Right? You cannot experience my mind, and I cannot experience your mind. So experiencing the mind is what he's talking about. Knowing that the mind is there, because I know my thoughts. How do I know my mind is there? Because I know my thoughts. And that mind is said to have the golakam of the heart. So that is what is meant by it is manifesting in the heart, or it is resident in the heart. All those words mean only that. Heart is the place where the mind resides. Mind is the medium for manifestation. It is not that Atma is not there outside the heart, outside the body. Atma is there everywhere. But inside me, I can experience those thoughts only by way of the consciousness, the reflected consciousness in my mind. That is the sakshi.
Thank you. Interestingly, when you say manas, in Telugu, manasam means heart.
Okay. Where is the golakam?
Yeah, thank you.
Om sir.
Yes.
Today I understood the real significance of this portrait, na Gita Upadesh.
Yes. It's lifted from here actually.
Whoever has conceived it is a real genius, I would say.
The only thing is, in most of the portraits, you will
Yes,
find
sir.
there are not 5 horses.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
So basically, that's a mistake. There should be 5 horses
They're shown as 3 or 4 in
or 4.
most
It
of
should actually be 5. I think they are not showing 5 because it's too much of a mess to make 5 into the small space
Maybe difficult to depict in
depicted. But this is
portrait.
where the imagery is taken from. And that is why we say that Bhagavad Gita is not Krishna's original teaching. Yes, and he says that in the 4th chapter, right?
Yes.
I have given this teaching before, he says.
Great, sir. Thank
And
you.
he forgot
Great.
it again out here, so he might have forgotten everything from before. So,
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. Okay. So thank you so much. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, Acharya.
Om Om.